talk about paints and paint kits and what I do with them. Why? I'm getting loads of questions about from beginners about like what paint to choose, what paper to pick, what brushes, and so on. So it always will be a problem. It always was, and as I said, it always will be. When I started my teaching work 5 years ago as art teacher, the very first problem I have faced, because I was working with the people of different ages, different level skills in the live classes in a room environment, and we had a problem because everybody would bring own paints and they will be very different quality, and I wanted to create something that would be suitable for a learning process. It would be enjoyable and at the same time cost effective, and that each student in the class would have the same layout with the paints that will greatly simplify the process, and that's pretty obvious. And I started to work, and my first attempts, or when I was trying to buy ready sets from different manufacturers, and the problem I have discovered was that whatever kit you can find, no matter how many colors is in the kit, like about 20%, at least 20% of the paint in that kit, in that pre-made from the even big names, would be useless. Absolutely. So you wouldn't be using them at all, never. I find it really strange and awkward, if you will, and I tried to compose something on my own, kind of trying to buy separate paints, arrange them in some sort of palette like this one here, and eventually there was a long way of success and errors. But eventually I have done it. So everything that I paint at the moment, I paint with this pretty palette that I have created for the students about maybe 4 years ago, and ever since I'm using this combination, even this palettes, which is not expensive thing now. And I will explain, I'll just tell you the story, how it was created, why it works, and perhaps it will help you maybe to do, if you wish, exactly the same for yourself, or maybe perhaps use my kits, because I always offer them for sale. I have limited stock of them, but from time to time I can offer them. So I just quickly show you, these are pictures. It's not like something to hang on the wall. These are pictures from my course, Watercolor for Beginners, which means each picture is something that we paint during one lesson, so that you could understand the variety of the colors, ability, and what these paints could do. And then we will talk more thoroughly about and deeper on the paints itself. So that bell pepper, and by the way, paper here is very cheap student grade cellulose paper. It's not even a cotton. Still nice result. So this, but paper is high quality cotton, heavy stock. So that's also same paint, same kit. This lemon, light stock Fabriano, I think I can see it. Yeah, more recent, like that, and that maple leaf also exactly everything painted from this very kit. So that is also we're doing on one of the very like first lessons. We learning how to mix the color, and just it shows students the whole variety of the mixes that you can create. For instance, see that circle in here, it was created with a red paint mixed with any other paint in this palette. So that is just, as you can see, practically unlimited amount of mixes you can create using this color. Everything is in here. Okay, so that is the quick show what you can do, but like still I'm always using this in my videos, in my personal work. This even like from the stock I kept for my students, so it's not even I just pulled it from the stock, and they all same. Now go back to getting back to theory, why it was created this way, from which, and step by step I will guide you to all these things, and I am absolutely sure you will like it and getting know more about the color theory and the paints. First thing that I learned about the paints, that student paint, this student paints, not for students. It's just like it's so bad. I can't even describe. It's like it just shouldn't be on the market at all. If you would like to learn watercolor and would like to get some satisfaction and enjoyment from the process, you should forget about student colors for professionals, because they're so not flexible, they're so bad. So just like some of them could be used, but like only person with a great experience can like find the proper application for those paints. For the beginners, for the students, I would only recommend professional grade paints. I know they're expensive, but you can find some sort of on the market, and there are different like brands, some of the cheaper, some of the little bit more expensive, some of very expensive. And I used to work with the Japanese company Halbane because I have access to loads of paint they provide. I getting all my stock directly from Japan, and it's much easier for me to work with. I got used to this, and just a little thing to say. When I was teaching in the class, these paints, I would give them even like to 5 years old, because like the effect is just amazing. Don't touch student grade paint, just forget about it, anything. So we have a task to create palette. We know, for instance, what paint we're gonna use. As I said, I will be using Halbane. This is professional high-grade paint with a very high like density of the pigment, very high-quality pigments. They use really nice ingredients for the paints. Is very good, and especially it's suitable for me because I work in layers, like a glazing slowly building up. And their paint is really transparent, really tender, and it gives really good response in that techniques when you work with layers. So it's very nice. So when you're starting to work to fill like the paints in your palette, to pick the colors that you would like to get, so it's always start with the color wheel. Color wheel, that is complete. In the front of you, 18 colors color wheel. Of course, I made it with the paints, but this is kind of supposed to be the end of the process. But for us, this is the start. We need to understand how it's all built. 18 colors. Of course, the base of it, the very kind of foundation is 3 primary colors, which is red, blue, and yellow. I will take some pencil perhaps, and I will mark them. So let's see, I have loads of pencils here. Put them aside. So we've got primary colors red, yellow, and blue. So this is foundation of any color like existing, and it's actually quite right, because like if you take 3 colors you can actually make anything, and true, you can do it, but the only it's true in one case: if each paint that corresponds to primary colors is right, correct paint. What I mean, not every red would be considered as primary color. Those our scientists already defined which pigment, like when I'm saying pigment, it equals paint, which pigment could be considered as any of the primary or secondary color. For instance, for the red paint to be considered as primary color, there is like very few of them. It's like a cadmium red, pyrrole red, some of them. And there is a list. You can find it in the internet, so it's quite easy. And basically, when you're trying to pick up 3 main ingredients for your palette, which is primary colors, they're supposed to be correctly assigned. So for the red, it's supposed to be something like pyrrole red. I'm using pyrrole red. Blue, it could be phthalo blue or cobalt blue. Yellow, there is like quite a few variations, but also it's supposed to be like from the list. And that is the base. Then we're trying to fill secondary colors, which is like violet, orange, I will mark second, like a secondary colors, and green. Of course, we can get all these colors like as a mix. Say orange, it's a mix between red and yellow. Absolutely true. But for successful kind of work, we need these paints not as a mixes, but as separate paints. And the interesting thing about it, especially with the orange, so orange paint, the true orange paint, not made out of red and yellow. It has specific orange pigment. And by saying that, I mean, so when we picking this paint with aiming to have paints in our palette that actually made just one out of one pigment. I will show you what I mean. If I pick any paint, say for instance like this lovely bamboo green, it says here what sort of pigment it made of. Pigment name PG36, and it's actually from the list that pigment like 100% falls through to the being secondary color. So I can use this paint as a secondary color. But there is also could be a different other colors. But the thing is, this paint made out of single pigment, PG30, so and that's a good thing. But there is other paints, for instance, this one, Naples yellow, it made out of 3 pigments. You can see this. PY35, pigment yellow 35, pigment yellow 42, and pigment white 6. So that contains 3 pigments in this. But sometimes you might have heard the rule that when you're mixing the colors, you should be creating any mix out of no more than 3 different pigments. Otherwise, it will be muddy or not really, attractive. And it's in the 90% of the cases, it is the case or the true. And this is why most of our paints in our color wheel and in our palette should be presented as single pigmented paint. So 3 primary colors, red, blue, yellow, single pigmented paints. All secondary colors, violet, orange, green, also separate paints, separate tubes, single pigmented. And we have left, here's 18, 12, 6, 12 tertiary colors. And with the tertiary colors, we have some level of flexibility. So some of them not used as often, and there is like maybe not too much difference between them. For instance, these two here, orange red and red orange. So that one supposed to contain more red than orange, and this one other way around, but there is not much difference into them, as you can see. And therefore there is no reason that I would have in my palette separate paints for orange red or red orange, because I can mix them using red and orange, and which is always the way I'm doing this. Same situation with the yellow orange or orange yellow, which could be composed out of a single pigmented orange and single pigmented yellow. So I can mix any kind of combination with them. But for this range, for the green yellow and yellow green, especially for the yellow green, I use separate paint, which is sap green, very often used in when you depict greenery. That also could be presented as a separate paint, but sometimes it's just enough, like when you have the mixes, but I don't have it like as a separate paint in my palette. Of course, that is secondary green, and it presented in the palette. Also, this interesting color, blue-green, tertiary color, could be done by mixing blue and green, but I always like to have it as a separate one. This is Viridian, always in my palette, very often used. Green-blue, not as often used, and as a result, we can mix it. Then violet blue, ultramarine, very often ultramarine, often used paint. So further, combination between ultramarine and violet gives us blue-violet paint. Not so often, we just forget about, will be mixed, don't need to have them as a separate paint. Violet, separate paint, presented. Red-violet, not always could be done as a mix, but not between violet and red, but as a mix between violet and this very interesting paint, magenta. The thing is, unlike in the oil or magenta, unlike as in the oil paints or acrylic paints, when you need pink color, you can mix red and white. We don't do that in watercolors. Therefore, we need some sort of separate paint that will represent the pink, like pink or rose color. That is magenta. Very important, also presented as a single separate paint. And therefore, all these paints here, 18 colors should be, but as I said, some of them could separate paints and some of them could be mixed, therefore we can forget about them. And as an extra, it's always good to have some paints that could help us for some particular tasks. For instance, if we look at all this gray, we can see yellow kind of very shy here. It's just only one. It would be nice, and like this one is cold, maybe lemon-like color, and it would be nice to add something warm or deep yellow. So this is why I'm adding in my palette deep yellow, and that could be different paint. Normally in my standard palette I use a permanent yellow dip. Sometimes it could be this paint, aureolin. or aureolin. Then gamboge, also everything from Holbein, very nice paint, deep, warm, golden like yellow shades. Then we need something, if you will, like cherry like paint, red paint. I'd like to have it always in my palette. It could be either carmine or rose madder, but mostly in the 90% of the cases in my palette you always find rose madder. Then for the very handy for the skies, bright blue, to avoid mixing white and blue, so we need something bright. I always put in my palette cerulean blue. And just maybe sometimes we need darkening agents, and I often introduce to my palette indigo or Payne's gray. So I need a little piece of... When you look at this, first question you might ask, where are the blacks and browns? No, there is no blacks and browns, and never will be in my palette. No siennas, no umbras, nothing. Forget about this. And the reason being, all these earthy colors could be mixed, and I'll show you how. Most commonly used mix that I am using, my student using like in their work, it's a mix between orange and phthalo blue. If you mix these two colors, you will start receiving different shades of brown, golden brown, different type, through the grays to black. If you think about it, we have here blue plus orange, but orange essentially is red and yellow. So we have our primary colors creating black, voila. But the problem is with the student color, student grade paints, sorry, and different like cheap paints, that result will be never achieved. Only proper pigments, if they treat it as, and they should be like primary colors, you can mix something like that. And that actually applies for any other combination. If I want, say, maybe some different type of, say, brown, for instance, I need really, really cold brown, okay? So I will take my magenta paint, magenta, and add viridian. Why viridian? Because magenta and greens, they are complementary colors, and by the law of the color theory, it's supposed to create different mixes like this. Also very dark, like that. You can say for that, maybe not orange but red, for instance. We can use different type of browns. So basically, using only colors that presented here, we can achieve absolutely unlimited variety of combinations, any type of brown, any type of kind of whatever in between, like whatever you desire could be mixed. Black, gray, and the thing is, all these mixes, they look really, really interesting, not boring. Plain black paint is just plain black paint. It's not, there is nothing in it. This is why when you look at the pictures done with the pure black paint, it looks just not even gray. It looks horrible. But as soon you mix, say, that orange and blue, and create that nice, interesting black color, you can create tiny accents, or maybe blue or warmer colors in it, and it's perfect for painting shadows. You see, if you take wrong paint, that mix will give you green. So it just simply doesn't work. Therefore, I never use browns, I never use blacks, because they always will be at my fingertips. I can create any sort of brown, any sort of black, to be like, it wouldn't be a lie if I say that. And by the way, just for demonstration purpose, say that magenta also possess very unique quality. Say if I mix this magenta and I will add yellow into this paint, it will become red. Very interesting. So I also can create different variations of orange and red, not between red and yellow, but between magenta and yellow. Very interesting combination you can get. So after very long testing, and I came to conclusion, this layout is something close to practically ultimate, and that is the foundation of my standard palette. By standard, I mean it always kind of suitable for universal tasks. You can do anything with this. When it comes to maybe specific tasks, like if you would like to concentrate on painting, say, flowers, I can extend this palette with the bigger range of reds, and maybe throw away some colors that won't be used, or maybe use the bigger palette. But the way I have it, it's like this. Now I would like to show you how I do it, what it involves and how it works. So I just buying this empty brand new palettes, folding ones, so they're absolutely brand new, and then I just take my paints and fill, say, the wells with the paints, of course Holbein paints, everything from the tube, according to layout for each type of palette I am creating. For instance, if the standard, it will be exactly like this one. If not standard, say if we would like to make an accent on the blues, for instance, to painting water in the sky, that will be this palette. For instance, everything up to here is standard: magenta, rose madder, pyrrole red, orange. This is gamboge. It's not like ochre or something. It's very golden color. Then is imidazole yellow, then permanent green, then goes sap green, then goes oh no, that's viridian, and then marine blue, that is I think royal blue, phthalo blue, then ultramarine, then cerulean. Basically that is layout. So for different purpose, when I fill them up, I will leave them open for a couple of days. They will solidify, just turn kind of into the paint that you used to see in pans. So it's absolutely, I can say, I can flip it this way, nothing happens, it won't run or something. It's pretty safe. Also, when I ship them, I wrap this area tight, so that even with some bad treatment, nothing happens with the paints inside the wells. So then just close it and send it to my customers. Now, also important to understand how much paint goes into these wells. So usually, not usually, always, that well takes 5 milliliter of paints. This is the like this. That is smallest, say, Halbane tube, 5 milliliter. So all that fits in there. Plus, minus, of course, because I'm doing this by hands, so I just squeeze it until it's full. But you can be sure that that will be something about 5 milliliters. So I make at this moment 3 different palettes. I always offering them inside Facebook group. One is the standard with the standard layout, one called Water and Skies with the extended blue range, and another one for the flowers with extended red and green range. So if you would like to get one, so you can absolutely easily, I will leave link on the screen in the description. It will be always, it's available for purchase from the website. Also, I would like to, just to make a note, all this, whenever you buy that paint from me, it helps me to run the Facebook group, to buy prizes, you know, and just it's kind of win-win situation. So I hope that basically explains a lot, or maybe just some basic things. Maybe it will help you when you have questions as a beginner, when you would like to start with something, and you would know that if you go with this kit, it's kind of, you know, absolutely foolproof, fail-proof. Everything is just works as it's supposed to do. In the future, I have plans compare some of the key paints here. Halbane, for instance, which is 100% Halbane paints in this palette, against different manufacturers, say Daniel Smith, Sennelier, Schminke, whatever. Say I would take red, Pyrrole Red by Halbane and compare it side by side, all this, what I need, all the qualities of the whatever comes to it, and I will decide either it stays in the palette or goes, and that will eventually improve the content of the palette. Like I think dramatically it will be even better thing. Now about prices. By having this thing, I managed to reduce the overall cost practically like twice. If we try to look, say, at this website, Jackson's Art, they have Halbane, and say that 18 color kit cost £57, which about 66 euro or maybe $70. But the problem is the composition of the kit. It's, I don't know, it's loads of paint that you don't really use, like burnt sienna, burnt umber, Chinese white, maybe, yeah. And that's very important thing. See cobalt blue and it says tint. When it says tint or hue, what's important to understand, this is not real cobalt. Because these pigments are quite expensive, like cadmiums, cobalt, etc. They cost a lot, and not everybody would like to buy them. Maybe not everybody need them. Say for illustration purpose, it might work. For the things that we're doing for realistic painting, no, it doesn't work this way. So basically they will replace original cobalt pigment with something like a mix of other cheaper pigments, but it looks like cobalt. But the problem is it will not work as cobalt, and that is actually very, very important when it comes to, say, that color, orange. if orange will be a composition of cheaper pigments, that will not create black when it mixes with blue. Same if you use blue instead of, say, real cobalt for that mix, it also give you unpredictable results. And since all the paints here are like one of the out of the top of the range of their like, you know, the whole list of the paints they have, I think Halbane has about 140 colors or something in the range. Not all of them like useful, some of them just mediocre, to be honest, but the majority of the paint really good quality, and I've been using them for many years and enjoy it like a lot. And I am sure if you get one of those, you also will have loads of enjoyment. That is for sure. I think in States, in United States, that paint even more expensive for some reason compared to Europe, but still, so that is also cost effective. Basically, I have actually calculated how much it's gonna cost you if you will say would like to get exactly the same layout in the form of, say, 5 milliliter tubes. So you buy 16 colors from Halbane, 5 milliliters of these colors. It will bring you down roughly 100 something, at least 100 euros and $110 or so. It's also very cost effective. I'm gonna keep it this way for as long as I could. I don't want to like raise the retail price for the kit higher. At this moment it's okay, and it's affordable for, I am sure, for majority of artists out there. So if you would like to order one, please contact me. I will be always bringing more products, affordable, high quality, to offer to beginners, or maybe even like intermediate artists. That there will be some brushes very soon. So, but I think this is kind of wraps it up. If you have any questions, you can ask me, you know that. More stuff about this you can read on the webpage, but I think this is it. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, and bye.